She only stopped for 5 seconds, just long enough to brush snow off her windshield. But that tiny moment changed everything. Because out of the blizzard came a trembling, frostbitten bobcat kitten. So desperate forewarned that she leaped straight into a stranger's car. And what that stranger, a woman named Riley Hart, chose to do next? Would unravel a mystery, їх пасе a hidden threat. And ultimately transform both of their lives forever. The storm came earlier than the forecast as warned. By 5 in the afternoon, Montana's Highway 212 hit vanished beneath a curtain of white, each ghost carving new ridges across the road faster than plows could keep up. Riley Hart gripped her steering wheel, knuckles pally, wipers scraping desperately across a windshield that seemed to freeze the moment she cleared it. Riley wasn't supposed to be here. She had left work late, again, and now found herself crawling through a storm that felt more like a wall than weather. Her phone buzzed with winter alerts until the battery finally died, leaving her with only the hum of the engine and the anxious rhythm of her own breath. She pulled into a small turnout near an abandoned ranger station. Just 2 minutes, she whispered to herself, stepping out to brush ice from the headlights. The cold slapped her instantly. Sharp, beating, predatory. She had just cleared one headlight when she heard it, a sound so faint she wondered if it came from the wind itself. A CRY. Not a human CRY. Not a cat mirror. Something in between, a rasping, desperate sound that trembled on the edge of silence. Riley turned, scanning the swirling snow. At first she saw nothing. Then, movement. A tiny shape stumbling toward her in the whitewood, no larger than a horse but heavier in the shoulders, ears tipped in black, tail short and stiff. A bobcat kitten. Maybe 10 weeks old. Freezing to death. It staggered toward her boots before collapsing in the snow, sides heaving. Riley's heart lurched. Wild animals didn't approach humans unless something was terribly wrong, and this little creature was seconds from shutting down. A god, she breathed, kneeling. The kitten lifted its head weakly, ice crystals clinging to its whiskers. Riley reached out slowly, expecting it to hiss or swat. Instead, with a trembling, broken CRY, the kitten lunged forward and leaped straight into her car. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't planned. It was pure instinct, the last attempt of a dying creature searching for warmth. Riley scrambled after it, heart pounding, finding the kitten curled beneath her steering wheel, shaking violently. Okay, sweetheart, she whispered, sliding into the seat. We got you. Her breath fudged the air inside the vehicle. The storm roared outside like a living thing. She turned the heater on full blast and wrapped her jacket around the kitten. To her shock, it didn't resist. Instead, it pressed its face into her arm, releasing a tiny sound that shattered her. A CRY of surrender. A CRY of trust. Riley swallowed hard, her throat burning. I don't know if you can hear me, she whispered, but I'm not leaving you here. Thunder cricket overhead, unusual for snow, and Riley felt her whole world tilt. She didn't know yet that this little creature wasn't just lost. She didn't know she had just intercepted something far bigger than a freezing bobcat. And she had no idea that her decision in the next 10 minutes would determine whether the animal in her arms lived or disappeared like countless others before her. But she would. Soon. Because saving this kitten would їх пасе a truth buried deep in the Montana wilderness, a truth someone had tried very hard to hide. The heater groaned as it fought the cold. Frost sped across the edges of the windshield, trying to reclaim the small sanctuary Riley had created inside her car. She glanced down at the bundle wedged between her knees. The kitten's sides rose and fell in shallow, rattling breaths. Its fur was crusted with ice. One ear was nicked. Its paws were raw and crooked. Stay with me, she murmured, tightening her jacket around it. The tiny body shivered so hard she could feel it through the fabric. Her first instinct was simple, selfish, human. Drive home. Get under blankets. Put the small, desperate life in a cardboard box with a bowl of milk. Worry about the rest tomorrow. Then a memory surfaced, a documentary she'd watched once about wild animals kept as pets. The glassy story of a caged lynx. The quiet despair of a fox that never touched dirt. This is not a house cat, she reminded herself under her breath. You can't wing this. She pulled out her phone. No signal. Just the machine cord, emergency calls only. Her eyes flicked to the abandoned ranger station at the edge of the turnout. The windows were dark, but the radio antenna still rose from the roof like a metal tree. Okay, she whispered, making the decision that would divide her life into before and after. We do this right. Riley shifted the car into drive. The road heat nearly disappeared. Snow swirled in violent sheets, erasing the lines, the shoulders, the word. She drove slowly, heart pounding, one hand on the wheel, the other bracing the tiny body to keep it from sliding. Every few seconds, she checked on the kitten. Still breathing. Still shaking. Still alive. A sign loomed through the white, ranger station, 1.3 miles. A ghost slammed into the car. The tires skidded. Relay's stomach dropped as the vehicle fishtailed, sliding toward the ditch. Na. She eased off the gas, steering into the slide like her father had taught her. The car shuddered, tanked out traction, straightening out with a violent jolt. The kitten let out a broken, rasping cry. I know, she whispered. I'm scared too. When she finally turned into the ranger station lot, relief hit so hard she felt dizzy. The station itself was dark, but a single orange security light burned above the side door. A truck settled buried under snow. Someone had been here. Maybe still was. Riley killed the engine but left the key turned just enough for the heater to blow. She hesitated, looking between the door and the tiny life under her jacket. Leaving it alone, even for a minute, felt wrong. Carrying it in felt insane. She chose insane. Inside the station, the air smelled of dust and coffee gone stale. A radio crackled faintly somewhere in the back. Hello, she called. Is anyone? A man in a worn green jacket and wool hat appeared from a side office, eyebrows shooting up at the sight of the wild bundle in her arms. What in the world? I think it's a bobcat, she blurted. She jumped into my car. She's freezing. I didn't know where else to go. I couldn't get a signal. He held up a hand, already moving toward the old radio console on the wall. Name is Howard, he said. Assistant Ranger. You did the right thing. Sit, keep her ripped. Don't try to feed her. I get wildlife on the line. He flicked on the radio, HAS voice suddenly sharp, professional. Dispatcher, this is station 4B. We got a civilian here with what appears to be a juvenile bobcat in hypothermic distress. Requesting immediate contact with Fish and Wildlife or a licensed bear. Static. TNA Amans voice replied, combat urgent. Copy that, 4B. Pitching Utro to DR, Елисей Маурн, State Wildlife Vet. Howard glanced back at Riley. You made a dangerous drive in a blizzard for a wild animal, he said quietly. Most people wouldn't. Riley tightened her hold as the kitten gave another faint shudder. Most people, she replied, didn't look her in the eyes first. She didn't know yet that on the other end of that radio, DR, Maurn was already thinking about another case, about a string of strange disappearances in this very region. And that the South-Asian kitten might be the missing piece she'd been looking for. The Wildlife Rehabilitation Center sat 30 miles from the ranger station, wedged between a frozen river and a stand of leafless suspense. The drive there felt endless, though Art's old truck handled the snow better than Relay's car ever could. Riley sat in the passenger seat, cradling the kitten beneath her jacket, feeling every tremor. You sure try be open, she asked. For DR, Maurn. Howard snorted. She sleeps lighter than a day in hunting season. As if on cue, lights flicked on in the main building as they pulled in. A woman in her 40s stepped out, hair pulled back, cheeks flushed from the cold. She wore insulated overalls and a headlamp strapped to a knit cap. Where is she? DR, Елисей Маурн asked, skipping introductions. Riley opened her jacket. The kitten squinted at the southern brightness, letting out a hoarse, all-formed hiss. Елисей's gaze sharpened. Definitely bobcat, she murmured. Family. Too young to be alone in this kind of weather. They moved quickly inside. The air hit Riley like a wave, warm, humid, scented with straw and antiseptic. Rooms branched off a central hallway, nursery, raptors, small mammals. They settled in an exam room that looked more like a field station than a clinic. Елисей laid the kitten gently on a heated pad while a tech slid a towel loosely over her body. Name? Елисей asked without looking up. Riley, she answered. I meant her, Елисей said softly, a hint of DRY humor under the tension. Riley blinked. I don't know. Or I wasn't going to name her. She's not mine. Елисей nodded once. Good answer. The exam began. Temperature, dangerously low, but slowly rising. heart rate, rapid and 3D. Pause, inflamed but not fully frostbitten, a small miracle. Wait, under what it should have been. 10 Ulysses' fingers still at the kitten's neck. At that, she murmured. Riley leaned closer. Under the thick fur, where the neck met the shoulder, a faint ring of bare skin encircled the kitten's throat, a thin, raw line where fur grew in oddly. Old color burn, Ulysses said grimly. Something too tight. Left on too long. She hit a color. Riley whispered, horrified. Or a snare. Hard to say. Ulysses' jaw clenched. But that's not all. She parted the fur a little further and revealed a tiny shaved patch just behind the kitten's left shoulder. At its center, barely visible, was a faint blue tattoo, a cluster of letters and numbers. Ulysses inhaled sharply. NP7, she read. You've got to be kidding me. Ward, leaning in the doorway, frowned. You know that mark? Ulysses straightened slowly. It's not mine, she said. It's from the North Pines study. Official state research project. They only take animals with that code inside the preserve. Release browers furrowed. Is that strange? Very, Ulysses replied. Because the preserve is 70 miles from here. And the kitten is far too young to have gotten this far on her own in this weather. She moved to a computer, fingers flying across the keyboard. If she's in the system, here be data. Tag ID, matter profile, release nodes, if any. Riley watched the screen flicker with forms, maps, lists of telemetry pings. Finally, a record opened. Ulysses' expression darkened. Here she is. Family bobcat kitten. Marked as dependent juvenile. Last logged with her mother 3 weeks ago. That doesn't seem too bad, Riley offered. Ulysses says didn't leave the monitor. Her maternal is marked with a different word. She turned the screen slightly. Riley saw a single, chilling status stamped in red. Missing, foul play as respected. Words were under HIS bread. You think poachers took the matter, he asked. Not just poachers, Ulysses said quietly. You've hit reports. Unofficial, mostly. Vans without plates. Gunshots at night. Trail cameras going dark. She looked back at the tiny, shivering kitten. If someone is trapping adult bobcats in the preserve, she said, they may have taken the kitten, too. That color burn, the distance. Release stomach turned. So she escaped. Maybe, Ulysses said. Or maybe whoever hit her got sloppy and lost her in the storm. Either way. She placed her hand gently near the kitten's head, not quite touching. Either way, whoever let this baby end up all of that in a blizzard is still out there. And as the incubator hummed to life round the kitten, warming her fragile body by fractions of a degree, Riley realized her choice and just saved one life. She had stumbled into a battle she hadn't known existed. A battle between the wild, and those who were quietly trying to steal it because the storm cleared by morning, but the world it left behind felt different, too clean, too quiet, as if the snow had erased not just tracks, but intentions. Riley slept fitfully on a bench in the rear Chinter's tiny lobby, waking every time a door clicked or a radio crackled. Just after dawn, Ulysses stepped out from the back rooms, rubbing tiredness from her eyes. She made it through the night, Ulysses said. Riley sat up too quickly, the muscles in her neck protesting. She did. Barely, Ulysses replied. But that's enough for now. They walked together to the critical care room. The kitten lay curled in its rear front incubator, connected only to warmth and oxygen. Her breathing was steadier. Her nose no longer spally. She needs a temporary name, Ulysses admitted. For the charts. Something neutral. Riley stared at the tiny rise and fall of her chest. Blizzard, she said swiftly. Then she shook her head. No. That's the night that almost killed her. She tried again. Nava, she whispered. Because she was almost gone, but she's still burning. Ulysses' mouth twitched. Nava atheist. Our arrived mid-morning with someone new. A tall man in a heavy canvas coat, badge clipped to HIS belt, snow still melting in HIS beard. He carried a folder under one arm and a quiet intensity in HIS eyes. Riley, this is Agent Colin Shaw, Ulysses said. Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. Is been tracking illegal activity in the preserve. Cole nodded in greeting. You're the one who found her. Yes, Riley said. She found me, technically. He listed it as she described the exact location, the time, the weather, the way Nava had moved, the absence of any other tracks. Storm that but covers evidence fast, call mattered. Convenient for the wrong kind of people. He opened HAS folder and spread a few photos on the table, grainy trialed some images. A truck with no plates. Men unloading cages. The blurred flash of a spotted built behind mesh. You've been missing 3 colored adults from the study area, he said. Now their kitten shows up 70 miles away with a color burn and hypothermia. WHY? Riley asked. WHY would anyone target bobcats? Here not, lions. Or tigers. Fair, Cole said. Bonds for foreign markets. Exotic pets. People will pay a lot of money to own something they shouldn't. He tapped Navas ID number in Ulysses open fillet. And this little one is proof Someone's been taking animals alive, not just shooting TRM. That makes 80 years. Riley saw a lot. What happens now? We go back to where you found her, Cole said. See if the storm missed anything. Riley hesitated. Can I help? He studied her for a moment. This isn't a movie, MS, hard, he said. There may be armed men involved there. I'm not asking to chase TRM, she replied quietly. I don't want to walk right now. Not if they started with me. Ulysses interjected. She's already risked a lot, she said. And she's a witness. Might be good to have her see the scene with us, in case something jogs her memory. Cole exhaled. Fine. But you stay behind the line. Non-negatively. The turnout looked different in daylight. The storm hit softened into a polystyrene, drifts spilled like frozen waves along the tree line. Riley stepped out of the truck, boots crunching on the crusted snow. Show me exactly where you parked, Cole said. She pointed. Here. And she came from, there, under that ridge. Cole and Ward moved her head, sweeping the area with their eyes, careful not to trample more than necessary. For a long time, they found nothing. Then Ward called out. Got something. Near the edge of the trees, where the wind had dumped less snow, a patch of ground had been scraped raw. A smear of blood stained the ice. Nearby, half buried in a drift, lay a broken length of steel cable. A snare. Chole's jaw tightened. Check this out, he said, lifting the cable with a gloved hand. Teeth marks. Something chewed through this. Relay stomach lurched. Her, she whispered. Nava? By cerebral, Cole said. Or her mother, trying to free her. He straightened and scanned the tree line, HAS их precision dark. Whoever said this here either panicked when the storm rolled in or planned to come back later. He looked at Riley. You didn't just save a random bobcat, he said. You interrupted Someone's operation. A gust of wind swept across the ridge, stinging their faces. Riley pulled her scarf higher, suddenly aware of how small she was in all this. What if they come back, she asked. Cole slid the broken snare into an evidence bag. Then ye be waiting, he said. And thanks to you, ye be ready. Riley glanced back toward the direction of the rehab center, where Nava was fighting to life. She hadn't realized until this moment that saving one life might mean exposing a whole network built on ending TRM. Nava's recovery was not a straight line. Some days she slept for hours, breathing shallow but steady, reality hovering just above her like tin ice. Other days she woke with a fierceness that startled even Ulysses, hissing at hands that came too close, swatting at the syringe that brought her life-saving fluids. She's a fighter, Ulysses would say, watching her. Let's have the battle. As the hypothermia resolved and her strength slowly returned, Nava graduated from the incubator to a larger indoor enclosure, then to a nursery pen with 3 limbs, hollow logs, and platforms. Riley visited when allowed, staying quietly near the observation window, unring the rules, no cowling, no tipping, no trying to be a friend. The first time she saw Nava climb, her chest ached. The kitten scrambled clumsily at first, claws sliding, back feet misjudging the distance. She fell, shook herself off, and tried again. By the 7th attempt, she reached the top branch, tail twitching, pupils blown white with pride. She doesn't remember me, Riley whispered. Good, Ulysses replied beside her. The teammates we did our job right. On the other side of the glass, Nava crouched, a slacked on a feather lure dragged through the straw. Her shoulders rippled in that unmistakable predator RHYTHM. A pause. A calculated crawl. Then a perfect, explosive pounce. Her mother rolled without her that, Ulysses murmured. You're just filling in the gaps. Riley thought about the missing adult bobcats. The ones whose last data points blinked out of existence on a screen somewhere in Chole's office. The files marked with that same retort, missing. Has the investigation, she asked. Active, Елисей said simply. Cole pulled trailed some footage from a logging road near the preserve. Same truck keeps showing up at night. He thinks here using storm the ascover. Less visibility. Less chance of being seen. Release hints curled into fists inside her coat pockets. I want to help, she said again, quietly. You already did, Елисей replied. You showed up when nobody else was there. And you didn't take her home to show your friends. You cultist. She tipped her head toward Nava. Most people don't understand that the kindest thing you can do for a wild animal is to make sure it never thinks of you as safety. Riley watched Nava stalk the feather again, so the way she moved now, sharper, more precise, less hesitant. What happens when she's ready, she asked. We work with the state, Елисей answered. Find a release city. Take her far from rats, near water, with enough prey and cover. Then we open the crate. That's it? Riley asked swiftly. You just, let her go. That's it, Елисей said. Anything else is about us, not her. Weeks turned into months. Winter loosened its grip just enough to let hints of green show along the riverbank. Cole returned to the center a few times, always with new updates, a cistern here, confiscated pelts there, a tip about a cabin using illegal traps. They're getting nervous, he told Riley one afternoon. People like this make mistakes when they're scared. Good, she said. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills in a blaze of copper, Елисей met Riley at the enclosure fence. She's past 6 pounds, Елисей said. Hunting simulations are solid. No signs of imprinting. Here is submitting the final paperwork. For release? Riley asked. For release, Елисей confirmed. A strong image of relief and grief rose in Riley's chest. I feel like I'm losing something I never quite hit, she admitted. Елисей leaned on the fence, watching Nava tear into a rabbit carcass with efficient brutality. That's exactly how it's supposed to feel, she said. If it didn't, we wouldn't be human. Riley thought back to the night of the blizzard, the empty parking lot, the shattered sound in the wind, the tiny body that hurled itself into her car like a thrown stone. The terror in Tosays. The question in TRM. Will you let me live? You answered her, Елисей said gently, as if reading her thoughts. And now she gets to answer the word. Riley swallowed, blinking hard. I just opened a car door, she said. You did the hard part. Елисей shook her head. Everyone likes to talk about the people at the end of the story, she said. The reapers, the vets, the officers. But none of us would be here if someone like you didn't stop in the middle of a storm and decide a life mattered. On the other side of the fence, Nava paused Michi and lifted her head, ears pricked. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of something beyond the enclosure. She stared toward the trees. Toward home. The release city lay deep within the North Pines Preserve, miles from any PVD road. Riley bounced in the back of the state truck, fingers clenched round the strap above the window as they crawled over rotted dirt and early spring mud. You don't have to be here, Cole said from the front seat, glancing at her in the mirror. I know, Riley replied. But I need to see the straw. Елисей sat beside the transport crate, one hand resting near the mesh without touching it. Inside, Nava paced in tensy circles, muscles taut, eyes sharp. Shinas summit things up, Елисей said. They always do. They parked near a narrow clearing where young pines stretched toward a shadowed sky. A stream ran not far away, its banks lined with tracks Riley couldn't identify. The air was alive with queer things, insect hum, distant bird calls, the whisper of needles in the breeze. This is where her mother once ranged, Cole said swiftly. At least, according to the old telemetry. Any news? Riley asked. He didn't sugarcoat. Her mother's car was found cut off near a Apache's camp we busted last month, he said. We recovered pelts. Bones. 2 live foxes. No bobcats. He caught her a. You a little hitchhiker helped us, he added. Her mark in the system gave us a thread to pull. We brought down 4 people and shut down a pipeline that's been bleeding this place for years. The words felt too big for the clearing. Riley looked at the crate, at the small, fierce life inside, pacing back and forth like a storm contained in fear. One leap, she whispered. One stupid, brief leap into the wrong car. Right car, Елисей corrected. Very right car. They unloaded the crate together, sitting it at the edge of the clearing, door facing the trees. Елисей stepped back, remote release in hand. Cole moved even farther away, giving space. Riley stood beside Yelise, heart pounding. Any last words? Yelise asked quietly, half teasing, half serious. Riley stared at the crate, at the dark shape behind the mesh. Thank you, she whispered. For trusting me. For not giving up. The wind picked up, carrying the sense of pincep and dampers. Yelise pressed the release. The crate door clicked and swung open. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Ten nervousness serped at the threshold, whiskers twitching. She sniffed the air, long, deep, something pissing across her face that Riley didn't have a word for. Resignation. Fear. Possibility. She stepped out. Her paws sank into real soil for the first time since she was torn from it. She stood there, tensely listening, testing. Then, without looking back, she slipped into a crouch and moved toward the undergrowth with a grace that had nothing to do with humans. Riley watched her go, a tightness in her chest she hadn't realized she'd been carrying. Sometimes they pause, Yelise murmured. Sometimes they look back. Sometimes they just go. And that's okay? Riley asked. That's perfect, Yelise said. They watched us now reach the edge of the trees and disappeared into shadow, her coat blending with dappled light. For a moment, Riley thought it was over. Then, from somewhere just beyond the first line of trunks, came a sound, soft, short, unmistakable. A bobcat's chirp. Another answered, deeper, from farther in. Riley's breath hitched. She's not alone, she whispered. Probably another bobcat in the area, Yelise agreed. Maybe a male, maybe a relative. Either way, she swore she's meant to navigate that herself. Cole checked HS watch. You ready to hit back? He asked. In a minute, Riley said. They gave her that minute. She stood there, listening to the forest settle round the abyssins of a crate, the abyssins of walls. Round the freedom of an animal who should never have needed rescuing, but who got it anyway. On the drive back, Riley rested her head against the window, watching trees blur into a single, continuous green. You know, Cole said suddenly, we don't usually get surveillance in our reports. But this one, the paperwork's going to say the case started with you. Me? She asked, surprised. You pulled over, he said simply. You opened a door. You made a choice. Riley thought of the cold parking lot, the cricket sound in the night, the wild, terrific weight slamming into her car instead of running from it. I just told to walk Roy, she said. Exactly, Cole replied. That night, back in her small apartment, Riley sat with a mug of tea cooling untouched in her hands. Outside, the world moved on, traffic, porch lights, bits of conversation drifting up from the street. But somewhere, under the same sky, a young bobcat moved through her mud-hairs old range. She would hunt. She would fail. She would learn. She would survive or she wouldn't, on her own terms, in her own word. Not as a pet. Not as a trophy. Not as a secret in a cage. But as what she was always meant to be. Riley closed her eyes, hearing again the tiny, broken sound from that blizzard night. Will you let me live? She smiled through sudden tears. Yes, she whispered into the quiet room. We did.